So we're about to do a deep dive into two things that can hold churches back from true restoration. First, what restoration really is. And the second is those biased thoughts that cloud our judgment.
I'm not biased.
Right. We all have biases. So first, what we're going to do is clear up a few things. First, what is restoration and what is restoration not?
I'm listening.
Good. I'm glad you're listening, because restoration is the process of bringing back something to its original condition, or really an even better condition.
What does that have to do with churches?
Yeah, right. So I'm getting to that. In the church, it's about a fallen leader after true repentance, not just getting their job back, to become healthier and stronger than ever. Here's what restoration isn't. It isn't ignoring the sin and turning, just a blind acceptance, because restoration is dealing with that sin. And so after the repentance of the individual, is working through the consequences, mending the relationships, identifying those underlying issues, and building trust again, and setting up strategies and processes that really help to keep us from, experiencing that kind of a thing again. And it's about dealing with the heart. It's the heart of the issue, and gaining that deeper spiritual insight, and also better connections with Jesus. And so we want to deal with those biases that have invaded our mind in the fallen state.
What?
Well, what I mean by bias, and I was getting to it really, is a bias is that sneaky little shortcut that our brains take. And they make us see situations in a certain way, even if it's not the whole truth.
Are you calling my brain lazy?
No, not necessarily lazy, but our brain definitely likes to take shortcuts. And I think a lot of the anger that surrounds these arguments about fallen leaders and how to handle them, there's a lot of bias mixed in. Bias exists both on the side of the fallen pastors, as well as the ones who are on the other side of the debate on whether we should restore somebody at all, because we're human. We do have biases. And I think if we're going to move forward as a church, we really have to understand them. And so we're going to cover those in an upcoming video. There is something of value here today, because what I'd like to ask you to do, if you're willing to do it, is to begin to think about some questions you might have. And it's also your chance to influence the content over these next several videos as we're answering basic questions, simple questions that have to do with restoration and how the church should respond, even the burnout that leads to these kind of things in the first place. This is not a victim thing. This is not going, hey, feel sorry for fallen pastors at all. So I want to give you a chance to ask questions, give your comments, drop them in the comments below, and let's just start this whole conversation. Let's figure out what it's about. There's really been one of those subjects in the church that we just don't really talk about. Maybe we're kind of afraid to, maybe nobody wants to admit that it could happen to them, or maybe it's just that we really are so biased. Again, it's your chance to drop some comments below and to influence the content. Maybe we can uncover some of the biases that you may not even know, you might not be aware of, that have shaped your views on certain things. And so I'm going to give you a few questions that might kind of get this thing rolling. They're going to be a little uncomfortable, and that's a good thing. So here's one. When a pastor falls, is your first thought immediate punishment, or is it long-term healing? Here's another. If a pastor experiences burnout, not a fall, but just burnout, was he really called by God, or is he just being selfish? Here's another. And I've heard this one so many times, that pastors are power hungry and after money. Is that even true? Here's another one. Should a pastor who has had a moral failure be banned from ministry forever? Has he disqualified himself forever?
I have so many questions.
Yeah, lots of people have questions, so drop them in the comments below and let's get that real conversation going.
Where do I even start?
Well, that's the point. Drop them in the comments below and let's really dive into these together. Listen, you may have a ton of biases or when whatever they are, as you ponder these questions, are you willing to examine these biases? Are you willing to decide whether or not, or think about whether it's a legitimate bias or if it's something that you're just being a little over judgmental and maybe hiding something that's going on in your own life? I don't know. It could be anything. One of the best questions that I've come across for myself when I'm trying to decide if I'm being biased or whatever, how is it even possible for me to believe this? And it forces me to think and consider that question from a different perspective. Right. And I'm sure that you're aware we're not always right. And this is very complex stuff. And there's no easy answer. But if we want our churches to be a place where grace and accountability can coexist, then this is a conversation we need to have. So drop those comments below, figure this out together. We're gonna have some more in-depth videos releasing very soon.
Hey, what do you guys think? Drop your comments below.